So hi everyone, welcome back to another video on the channel. In this video, we are going to solve two more questions on pattern printing. So let's start the video. In this particular pattern, the input is given as 5 and the output lines are also 5. So one thing is clear that our outer for loop will run exactly n times for every example of this pattern. Now we have to find the logic to print these letters. Here, for the first line, it prints 5 letters. For the second line, it prints 4 letters. For the third line, it prints 3 letters. For the fourth line, it prints 2 letters. For the fifth line, it prints 1 letter. I think the logic is extremely simple in this case. Our inner loop is going to print for n minus I plus 1 times for every iteration or every row. Here I'm using a 1 based indexing. That's why I'm using a plus 1 over here. But if you use a 0 based indexing, that will be a little bit easier to understand. I'm changing it to 0 based indexing. So in that way, it will be more easier to understand. For zeroth row, we have to print 5 elements. Here, our formula is n minus I, which means 5 minus 0, 5. 5 elements are getting printed. In the second line, we have to print 4 elements. I value is 1, 5 minus 1, I is equal to 4. 4 elements are getting printed. So zero-based indexing is little bit easier to understand in this case. Now we have to print the characters in the every row that we have in the pattern. So how can we write that? You notice that for every row the starting character is A. So we have to initialize a character variable with value A, and we have to print that. As soon as we enter the inner for loop, we have to print that character. And after printing, we just have to increment it to the next character so that it prints B, C, D depending on the row value. Now we just have to add a new line over here so that after every row gets over, the cursor moves to the next line. I think our problem here is done. Now let's check the output. Yes, our output is exactly same as the expected output. Now we have to enter the submit button and check the result. As you can see, our attempt was correct. Now let's move on to the second problem. In this particular pattern, the input is 5 and the number of output line is 5. So that means our outer loop will run for n times. Int I is equal to 1, I less than is equal to n, I plus plus. And the inner for loop prints one time for the first row, 2 times for the second row, 3 times for the third row, 4 time for the fourth row, 5 times for the fifth row. I think one thing is very clear that our J will print exactly same as the I value, or our inner loop will exactly run for the row number. Here row number is 1, the inner loop runs 1 times. Here the row number is 2, the inner loop runs 2 times. Here the row number is 3, inner loop runs 3 times. So that thing is extremely clear. After that, we have to find a logic how to print all these characters in this loop. So as you can see, the starting characters are not same here as it was in the previous case. So instead of declaring a variable inside the for loop, we have to declare it outside the for loop, because if we declare it inside, it gets reinitialized after each iteration, and we don't want that. We want to initialize it at the start of our program, because at the starting our variable is a, but after that it gets incremented after each row. In the previous problem, the value was getting incremented after each iteration of the inner loop. But in this particular pattern, the value is getting incremented after each iteration of the outer loop or outer loop. So we have to just print the character over here, print ch. Then where to increment this character? After the inner for loop finishes its execution, we have to print the or increment the character so that it gets incremented for the next row number or next value of I. And after that, we have to just add a new line so that the cursor moves to the next line after each row. Now let's click on the compile button and check the output. As you can see, our output is exactly same as the expected output. Now we just have to click the submit button and check the runtime. As you can see, the attempt was correct. So thank you very much for watching this video. You can watch my previous videos on pattern printing problems. I will be leaving the link in the description. Thank you.